Whether or not 2024 was the worst year ever for the Sussexes is debatable. It's a questionable statement. There is an argument that yes, indeed it was. Because this year saw them pull out their most expensive, high-effort stops in a bid to turn around their flailing popularity ratings that are, to be clear, the most disliked public figures 2 years in a row. So their rather massive lack of popularity at least motivated the couple to try something different and try more than they have in years past, but it didn't work. They set up these very expensive faux tours of both Colombia and Nigeria. Lots of effort involved in that. Lots and lots of money, time, practicing lines in Espanol even. They put out leaks that they were ready to forgive the royal family, put the drama behind them with the royals. They even reduced the amount of digs and mudslinging that they engaged in. They even tried really hard to publicize some of their projects to show what good exactly that they are trying to do. They got so desperate they even tried divide and conquer strategies. Despite all that, they still haven't seen a turnaround to their popularity and their reputations at all. Their image is still in the dumps. How frustrating it must be. One of the biggest ways that they undermined their attempts to turn things around and get back in the good graces of the public view was in continuing what came across as petty piggybacking, not just with the royals and their events, but also with legitimate organizations. This year saw Harry and Meghan stop more overt attacks towards the royals in particular, but it still saw them putting out social media posts and things that would catch the headlines on the same days as the royals had engagements or important events. They were still playing at those petty media games. They're just being more sneaky about it. They're still taking credit for other organizations' work to try to make themselves look better. Let's take a look at some more of their biggest mistakes of the year, shall we? So with the shock news of the royals' health struggles early in the year, we noticed a pivot to the Sussexes. No longer could they continue to openly harass the royals and paint them as the bad guys in 2024. The public had already rejected this idea largely, with the Sussexes' account of things always being so unbelievable, so full of lies, never backed up with proof. Additionally, the royals were successfully grey-rocking the toxic duo, just not engaging with the Sussexes, not feeding into it, not arguing it, just ignoring them altogether. But Harold and the Meg were still keen to continue to lean on the crutch of victimhood that had gotten them this far, that had gotten them the media deals and the attention that they craved. The interviews they were offered were always desperately hoping for another bombshell of the royals did this type of story, no matter if it were true or not. So the Sussexes knew that that was what they relied on to stay relevant, to get headlines, to get what they felt like was approval when really it was just attention, even though it was bad attention. For the narcissists in the equation, the attention and the interviews and all of it were so good, too good, to pass up. So they were all set to continue leaning on this tactic of peddling nonsense about the royals into 2024 and beyond. But even the most toxic of people, Harold and the Meg, still knew that that would be off limits at this point. As soon as the King and Princess Catherine announced their health issues, the pivot had to occur. It was still self-serving, don't get it twisted. The ceasefire wasn't out of compassion and concern for the royals. No, not at all. It was because they knew that they would be shamed by 100% of the public if they continued brazen attacks. And they didn't do a complete 180 either, no. Just a pivot, just a few degrees this way. We still saw that countless shady piggybacking, the occasional outburst from Harold, and snide side moves in the background that revealed the Sussexes are still very much bitter and resentful and spiteful towards the royals. They've just had to be sneaky about it this year to avoid openly attacking. And for some people, it was viewed as a positive because it was a little bit more sneaky. But for anybody paying attention, it was clear nothing had changed, nothing was different. It was the same old, unfortunate tactics from the couple. For example, the timing of social posts or announcements, especially those regarding American Riviera, Orchard Montecito, and Polo, were timed to try to steal spotlight or piggyback off of the royal family with events like Trooping the Color or people's birthdays, for example. And we did see a greater backlash to even that this year, with Meghan being dragged in mainstream media for the first time ever for the conspicuous timing of these posts. And that was satisfying to see, but they clearly didn't learn much from it because they still did it again with the Polo documentary show. Piece of fiction nonsense, which we have a video coming up going deeper into the Polo series at a later time, so be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. So for all of those that suspected that 2024's struggles for the royals would result in a reunion for the Sussexes, well, just the opposite seems to be true. We saw the royals close ranks and rally around the king and the princess, demonstrating greater support and connection with each other. Publicly communicating their allegiance, showing up for events alongside Prince William, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh taking on more duties, Princess Beatrice very clearly in a supportive role as well, even Princess Eugenie was seen about more often. And the Sussexes have continued to be excluded and ignored. Simply not worth the stress for any of the family members, because remember, for Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice, they're also dealing with their father dealing with a mess, but their mom, Fergie, had her own health scares recently as well. So the Sussexes at this time are just not a priority and definitely not worth exacerbating stress levels for any of these members of the family at this time. But that's not for lack of wanting or lack of effort on behalf of the king, at least, who extended an opportunity for Prince Harry to, what is it Harry likes to say, show up and do good? Yeah. Prince Harry was scheduled to attend an Invictus anniversary event in the spring in the UK, and he was quietly behind the scenes offered by the king to stay on palace grounds near Clarence House, where he and the king would have the opportunity to have a visit. But instead, Prince Harry not only rejected the accommodations, which, remember, would also come with a great deal of security, all the security and benefit of being on palace grounds near the king's residence, but he put out a petulant, manipulative press release stating that the king had other priorities and couldn't make time to see his son, which was disproved by palace sources who clarified and brought proof that that was not the case at all. So while the state of the relationship between the royals and the Sussexes had zero improvements this year, at least we saw a small decrease to the attacks. Thank goodness for the royal family's sake, with all they've been going through ever since Prince Harry and Meghan left. Starting with their smear campaign against the royals, losing Prince Philip and then Queen Elizabeth, and the massive shifts to their working and personal lives during that time, to now the more recent health struggles that several members have been enduring. It's the least you could ask for, right? That the weird uncle and the mean in-law won't keep attacking you in the media. But beyond that, the Sussexes made many attempts to turn around their image this year and move projects forward this year, with generally minimal success. No success, really. Harry's Invictus events at the 1 year to go kicked off 2024 with high hopes, but saw a mass exodus of key staff members following that and throughout the year. Invictus has been plagued not only with staff abandoning ship, but with rumors of budget issues, fears of disinterest from the public, even protests, because everybody is mad at Harry and Meghan for their first ever Winter Games coming up in January. Meghan Markle early last year tried teasing American Riviera Orchard Montecito, and it has gone down as the least successful, lowest potential celebrity branding attempt in history. With setback after setback after setback, unable to find a CEO, unable to get trademarks, everything from her logo to her business name has been rejected. Just a total fail in every way. And we've seen nothing actually come to fruition. It's clear that this was rolled out by somebody with zero business acumen and zero experience, and seems very much like it was just a whim, and nothing's actually going to work out at all. It feels like a child is guiding it. It's just ridiculous in every way. Harry and Meghan also tried this year to continue to attend celebrity events. They continued to try the whole buy an award gig with increased public criticisms that have only gained momentum and gotten louder and stronger every time they do it. So Harry and Meghan clearly grew disappointed that the tricks and manipulations that they had been utilizing in their first few years in America have been used up. It's burnt out. It's no longer working. Time for something different. Their very expensive efforts to curate an image of faux royals, or rather, perhaps this strategy was just to reignite memories of their time with the royals when they weren't yet the most disliked people, by traveling to Nigeria and Colombia, were also rejected by the public worldwide. Concerns for taking advantage of poor countries who don't have the budget to spend on these types of trips, billing it to Archewell in a sort of shady manner. What is the point of it all? What value are they delivering? None is the answer there. And so clearly the Sussexes grew very frustrated with this and this consistent dismay of everything that they've tried to do. So they decided to try desperate measures, and this separation professionally came about, with many people speculating that it was all down to Meghan's controlling and attention-hungry antics being a huge driving force behind the decision, that it not only was coming across bad to the public, but it was pissing Harry off. Safe to say, nothing positive really came out of 2024. When you look at it in retrospect for the Sussexes, it's like, what just happened? This was a mess. It was chaotic. There lacked direction. There was too much all over the place, and it just got worse and worse, and their vibes just kept getting worse and worse as the year went on. Even Harry's final effort with Polo was panned by viewers and critics alike and the public at large for being pathetic, elitist in the grossest way, and the cruel treatment of the ponies, of course, being a huge turnoff for everybody. It only further displayed Harry and Meghan's tasteless, out-of-touch, and unlikable characters to the public. So was it their worst year? What do you think? Definitely their most frustrating so far, I believe, because they tried more than ever before and spent more than ever before. They worked really hard. Looking back at their Archewell site, they really ticked up the amount of posts that they made and whatnot. We have a video coming up about that. But still, none of it worked. None of it came through. They've had to find alternative means to keep themselves in the headlines this year, and throwing money at the problem via unreasonable and irresponsible publicized vacations didn't work. They're still being voted the most disliked public figures. It's obviously left them more discontent than ever before. They look discouraged in their events. Like Meghan now has just sort of resorted to doing more like social type of events, like her highbrow hippie appearance was more of a social element to it because she knows these people personally. Attending the Paley Gala was a more personal vibe, you could say, because she knows Tyler Perry personally. She hasn't really been doing anything professional. I guess she did do that dinner, but even that wasn't received super awesome. But across all of these things, they just both seem really discontent and frustrated with how it's been going, which is understandable from the perspective of trying so many things and throwing money at the problem and it's still not working. As we've said, though, many times, had the Sussexes behaved and given themselves time to patiently sort out their roles within the monarchy, this year would have been the year where we saw them take the lead. And it would have been the right time, too. When you think about the well over a decade that Catherine took to really get to where she is now, where she has confidence and does a lot more solo engagements and whatnot, and just looks more comfortable doing the job and makes way fewer mistakes than she used to. Not that she ever chronically made a lot of mistakes. She's always been quite careful. But even her fashion and whatnot, just she really sunk into a well-defined public image after about 10 years of being with the royal family and being married to William. So if you think about how long that took for Catherine, who's in an even more elevated role and it's even more serious with higher stakes, for Meghan and Harry, this 2024 would have been the year for them to really step up and do more, and they would have been ready to do it well. And they would have gone down as very successful, well received. It would have been so great had they been capable of behaving. They would have been the ones at state visits and receptions at Buckingham Palace. We would have seen the Meg in a tiara. Can you imagine? Because they would have needed somebody to to be there, to allow Catherine, to allow the king, and even Queen Camilla, time to rest and recuperate and focus on their health. But instead, they pitched their hissy fits, burned all their bridges, nay, blew them to smithereens. And now, not only do they certainly clearly regret it, it's become all the more apparent they regret it, but it's plain to see just where they would have been now had they behaved. They would have had exactly what they wanted, which no doubt has contributed to their rapidly growing frustrations this year. That has got to be one of those elements behind the scenes that keeps coming up in their private conversations and frustrations, that they should have just cooled down and stayed and stuck it out, and they would have had things exactly how they clearly wanted them to be this year. But they didn't, of course. It's the Sussexes, the Duke and Duchess of self-sabotage. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.